Hi, friends. Welcome to my show. It's good to see you. I'm excited to have a very special guest on today by the name of David Montecalvo. He is an author and a teacher. He is the COO of Unity San Francisco. And I really think he's a really awesome person who's doing incredible work. And it's so important right now for this type of work. So, hi, David. How are you?
Eugene, it is so great to connect with you and everybody who's watching.
Yes,
It's
thank
a
you for being
beautiful,
here.
day in San Francisco where I'm from.
I
So
could see that. It looks like
yeah,
we were talking off camera. You have this gorgeous natural light, and I can see the greenery in the background, and I appreciate that so much. You know, it's interesting because I was led to you somehow through Kaylin, who has quite a platform on
yeah.
YouTube, The Ecstatic Self. And I just continue to want to talk to inspiring individuals who are wanting to really help people across their journey of transformation and healing, especially men of course, all people, but the queer community is very
Mm.
special to me, of course, being gay myself. How did you get into this line of work? What
Mhm.
was the awakening moment for you, or was it the journey that led you to it, I suppose?
How many hours do we have?
Right, exactly. I
um,
guess like a shorter version.
Yeah. So when we yeah. So I would say that I got into this work. I'm working in the spiritual space and am running a very successful gay men's spirituality group that's here in San Francisco. And in the process, I'm working on a manuscript, and I'm about to launch a book study course group on how gay men can rediscover the sacred masculine within them.
Mhm.
And all of these things are birthed out of the passion that I have felt in the contrast of those things, right? Like, so I have felt incredibly emasculated throughout my life prior to coming out. I had such a strong discomfort towards the word masculine or men or being male, all those things, because I felt like I was never like the other males. I wasn't like my father and cousins, and wasn't into sports, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The odd thing is that when I embraced my fullest self as a gay man, as a spiritual person, I actually never felt more masculine. And so as a result, I feel comfortable being around straight men. I feel comfortable being around, anybody else who identifies as a man. And so like there's just an element of being assured, and there's an element of being able to kind of bring that message to other queer men who feel the same way that I have felt. And so that in and of itself is just a powerful way in which speaks to surrendering to the power of your authentic self. Yeah.
Beautiful. I can relate so much to that. I'm sure so many of us can. Same thing for me growing up. Was not into sports much. I would challenge myself and attempt to do it
Yes.
because it was the thing
Yes.
to do, right?
Challenge yourself.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
I wasn't very
Yeah.
good at
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I could say, I mean, I played tennis and that was okay because I could control that within my own,
Yeah.
being individual one on one, but group sports were challenging. And then again, same thing. It was, okay, I don't fit into all of this. I'm not understanding all of this. I know how I feel inside, and I feel like I have to hide who I am. And I think, as you know, men in general have been kind of morphed into something through people over time of this is how it should be. This is what a man does. This is what he should do, what he wears. He's the provider and he's the tough one. And everyone should look to that as the example, yet not given the tools to be able to process how a man feels internally or if we're different as we identify as men.
Mm.
So I think, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, that's when I started losing my light and dimming my light over
Mhm.
time. until I had the awakening within myself around that, because I felt like, well, I can't really be who I truly am, and I need to fit into this box of what I'm told I'm supposed to be. So from there, I will create this almost mask or character. A portion of me is there. And then when I came out, it was, oh, now I need to really be on the other side, right? In my 20s when I came out, it was like I had the eyebrows waxed, I was wearing mascara, and I was diving into the world of drag and feeling all those things I couldn't feel before.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, was it challenging for you to be able to share who you authentically are with your family?
Yeah, with my family, gratefully, no, it was not as
Oh,
difficult.
good. Yeah.
Although it was harder to connect in terms of myself and how I thought of my relationship to my family. So what I mean by that is like I was with my family who have known me my entire life a certain way, which is straight or straight trying to act like, and so that was hard for me to get over that, because in the back of my mind, every time I would be with them as a gay man, it's kind of like they're thinking, oh my God, he's so different now, and he's so this and he's so that. And I have, yeah, it's just that analysis paralysis of what other people are thinking about you. And, one of the things that I really resonated with what you had talked about was having a mask. And ironically enough, the more that we try to be masculine, the more we're not masculine.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Well, it's forced. It's forced, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so the more that I'm authentic, the more that you're authentic, the more that you embody that element of masculinity. And so I would love to just take a second to describe what masculinity means.
Yes.
And this is a working definition, so it's subject to change. But I would like to say that I think masculinity is more of a sense of embodying your authentic self. So whatever that means, whether it means embracing yourself as a trans man or as a queer person, asexual, non-binary, it's an essence. It's definitely not associated with a particular gender or orientation. It's an essence. And so when you embody that level of assuredness and also willing to look out for the well-being of others. The course I'm about to launch is based on this book called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. And these are the 4 masculine sacred archetypes, essences. And each of those archetypes are really just patterns of behavior that embody the sacred masculine. And so, so it's looking at, as queer men, seeing what of those qualities resonates with us and what we have within ourselves, kind of promotes healing. And so there's the concept of integration, meaning when we are able to take all of the parts of ourselves and bring them together and find space with them, whether it's as a queer man embodying our divine feminine, right? Your heels, your relaxed eyebrows. Last week I spoke at a drag and spirituality summit, so I wore them heels and I was up for the gods. Like, it was amazing. It felt so whatever. And then here I am this next week talking about masculinity, and it is my gift as a queer identifying man that I get to do those things at will. I can wear heels, and if I was wearing heels and someone asked me to lift a heavy object, I could do that, right? Like, that's my gift as a gay man, and I'm so grateful for that. Whereas my entire life up to this point, or before coming out, I had been ashamed of my secret, right?
Totally.
And then now it's like, now that I'm authentic with myself, everyone knows my deepest secret, and that's that I'm gay. Whenever they see me walking down the street with my partner, it's like, oh, he's gay. Yep. That's my deepest secret.
I love that. I love so many things that you said. Interesting to me is, when you said that the different elements who we are, and masculinity is not necessarily how we identify or how we show up or choose to be or choose to love. And something about, you said, the different pieces. I feel, at least what happened to me and what I can see from sometimes other individuals, is that there's a level of almost fragmentation energetically
Mhm.
because we're
Yeah.
not being authentic, right? So we create, again, the mask, the facade, but energetically, it's almost like there's the division within who we are. And when we don't come from more of that whole and complete place from within, then that's when I feel that we can almost co-create and manifest what we don't want through that, a feeling less than, or feeling shameful,
Yeah.
or what I'm doing is wrong. And I think there's been so much put upon us over time, where in a belief system where we go internally and we say, well, that doesn't resonate with me, but I'm told I'm supposed to. So then, like you said, we create something from the outside to reflect what we think we should be rather
Mhm.
than who we authentically are.
Right.
And then when we're authentically who we are, like you said, it creates freedom, freedom of expression. You can be masculine and feel that energy, yet wear a pair of heels or fake eyelashes or
Yes.
glitter or whatever you want. And that's the balancing of, for me at least, for the masculine feminine energy. And I think that is when you can really enjoy life, be your full self, and represent who you want to be as that evolves, transforms, changes. When did it really start to connect for you, though? Was there a pivotal moment? Again, I know it's a journey, but was there
Mm.
something in your life that was like that light bulb where you went, I really can be authentic and be myself and be safe and be loved and thrive?
Mhm. Yeah. Um, so yes, but also so
Right,
much.
right. I
So
know
I
it's
would
it's
say,
like a
yeah,
double-edged sword question, I know.
right. So I was going through a very difficult transitional process in my life. I went through a dark night of the soul, and life
Me
as
too.
I knew it um, was over. And so I was at rock bottom. And that's what kind of forced me to examine who I truly was, and that was that I was gay.
Mhm.
And so that was like step one, was discovering that to myself. And then I surrendered all that I was doing and moved to a place that my soul was calling me to San Francisco. And so when I did that, it was like I was following what my intuition was telling me more and more and more. And as I followed my intuition, that led me to coming out to my mom and then my friends and then, my larger family. I started to experience that more of that connection. And I would say, to answer your question about when did I feel like I can most embody my authenticity, all of those steps that I just mentioned, they were fragments, as you were saying, because it was part of the coming out process. It wasn't until I was attending a group, a men's group, and most of the group were cis hetero men, and they were wonderful. And so all of the time that I was meeting with them for several months, I was kind of just dodging questions about who I was dating, and then finally one day I came out to them, and they embraced me with so much love and joy and joking, and then they made it just not a big deal. And so, which to me, I wanted it to be a big deal, but I think
Right.
that they didn't want it to be a big deal was like, okay, you're fine, you're accepted, right? And so when I did that, it was like, oh, I can still be a man amongst other men.
Right.
And then over the months and the years since, I found myself in different situations where that I don't have to be fragmented. That who you see David right now talking about masculinity is the same David that can be concerned about what's going on with Britney Spears and like all of
Right.
these things that are just like so like flamboyant, but then also embodying the what you would think of as contrasting,
Yeah.
sides of themselves. It's me. That's me. All of those things are me. And
Right.
so it's been continuing each step by step, is more of an embodiment of who I truly am.
Ah, I love everything that you
Yeah.
said. It's interesting because if you break it down in more of a metaphysical sense or spiritual sense, whatever you'd like to call it, It's like our soul spirit is not identified to the outside things that we might enjoy or how we show up in those energies, yet it is the human experience. And like you said, sometimes we're our hardest critic. We judge
Mm-hmm.
ourselves the most, right? And that's why the releasing and forgiving ourselves for not truly being who we are at the time, because that's where we were at, acknowledging it, but then saying, like you said, wow, I came out to these group of guys that identify as straight, and they were like, cool,
Mm-hmm.
awesome, be yourself. And, there are a lot of men currently that are that way, however they identify. I mean, if they're not in the queer community, in the sense they're excited about getting to know you. And I have experienced that recently. Like you said, when you are not hiding anymore and you are proud of who you are, and it's stages and levels within that. But when you really start to own your energy and you show your light from within, people are like, they see the true essence beyond everything else of what they perceive, I think, even if they're not aware of that yet. And some of the guys that I feel the closest to in my life right now do identify as straight. And
Mm-hmm.
they can be playful with me and we can have fun together. And I can feel that I'm one of the guys, whatever that means to
Mm-hmm.
me. Right. And I think that's where we create the freedom again, where we create the healing, because really healing is up to our own individual selves. We get to choose that. And when we start to clear some of it up and release it, that's when, like you said, the intuition leads you more. When we start to listen to where, in my belief system, where I come from, as I call source, energy, universe, then I can bring that in as I co-create my life and
Mm-hmm.
choose how I'm going to show up. If somebody comes to you, David, and says, I'm on the brink, I feel that I can really authentically show myself. What do you feel, though, is the common thread? I mean, obviously, probably fear, but is there a common thread that you see within people that keeps them held back
Mm-hmm.
overall?
Yeah, I would say probably trying to fit the expectations of
Mm,
others.
mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm,
see this in terms of men who are fully out. They think that they sometimes people will talk about not being like a scene gay, like a gay who just likes to go to bars and because they want to rather stay at home or be in more intimate settings. Um, or I hear it in people who are wanting to come out more, right? Or like come out like in general and being fully honest with themselves. It's just that it's different levels of trying to meet expectations of other people. And so whether it's a fear of not being able to connect with other queer folks or not being able to connect with other men or anything like that, it's just that sense of carrying the expectations of others. And
That's very
yeah,
true. Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
and
because we do that all in society, however we identify, whoever we are, there is that level of expectation we put upon ourselves and others, how we show up in it. And that is one of my biggest challenges, just in general, that I'm working on, is that I still see myself expecting people to show up in a certain way with where I feel they should be, and not
mhm,
necessarily how they identify, but why aren't they more open? Why aren't they responding this way? Why can't they receive
yeah,
my light? And everyone is on their own path, like we've mentioned, and we can only show up when we're ready to receive that. And everybody's also still uniquely different.
mhm,
So and our experiences, right? How we're raised, what we've gone through, the age that we're at, where we live, what part of the world we reside in, and how that affects us. And we're seeing so much of that through technology and through social media, that there's so much going on right now. Do you feel that it's important for individuals right now, even though there's a lot of chaos going on in our world? I sometimes feel almost at moments, and I work through it, where I go, well, maybe I shouldn't be as joyful, or maybe I shouldn't, you know, pursue as much as I am, and show that publicly, because so many people are hurting. Yet at the same time, I go, but I'm here for this temporary experience. It matters. It's a
Mm.
gift. And I want that soul experience. I want the growth. So dive in full force. What do you think about that? What we're seeing and how we step into that?
Hmm. Yeah, I think always wanting to acknowledge the pain that other people are going through,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the things that cannot be controlled by us in and of itself, such as war and natural disasters. um, I believe fully, though, that when in our own way we have the ability to impact. I believe that everyone is divine. We're all part of source and spirit. And so when someone else is hurting, by definition, we're also hurting. And so we should also, hold space for that to the extent that we can, while also still honoring the range and the beauty of emotions that we have in our own physical existence. And so I love this affirmation that we say at church, and it's an affirmation that goes. It says, "I lovingly commit to creating a world of safety, equity, and equality."
Beautiful.
And what does that mean? That means that we, in our own little ways, can find opportunities to create that world of safety, equity, and equality. And I love this image of when we heal ourselves, when
Mm.
we have a smile, when we do
Mm-hmm.
something good for someone else, it'll get the next person will be impacted, and then that next
Yeah.
person will be impacted, and that next person. And so before long, there's a chain reaction of positivity, a chain reaction of healing and joy throughout the world. And although that's probably an optimistic perspective, I mean, I think
Right.
it's the way to start, right? And so when you feel good about yourself,
Mhm.
you can impact others around you, who will hopefully impact others around them. And
Yes,
so,
it's like the ripple effect, right? It's
yes,
it's
yeah.
and we all are energy. Everything's energy. I mean, this mic is matter and energy. If you broke it down, we're energy. So it's interesting, like you said, being all connected yet so individually diverse and unique as humans, the way we might look with our skin color, or like we said, our sexual orientation, or our identity in general, or who we love and how we express ourselves. We are creative beings. We're beautiful beings. We, in my perception, all come from the same place, as you say, source. We get to live this human experience. And what I get excited about, even though, because I look at it, also, I never used to think so much about shadow work or
Mm-hmm.
darkness. I used to focus so much on light, only light,
Hmm.
positivity. But then as I started to break it down for myself, I realized, David, that sometimes the shadow, the darkness, reveals itself for us to then step back into the light and to evolve through. It's like the yin and the yang, right?
Yes, yes.
And I think so many of us, by my perception of what I see, get stuck on it should only be this way, or why is this happening? I never, ever am the type that would ever want anyone to suffer or go through horrific things. But when I look at it, sometimes I think of the healing and the growth that can come out of it. Yet
Hmm.
when you say that, people go, but why would I ever want to see anyone suffer or myself suffer? And of course, I don't believe that we should suffer. But then how do we go to the next stage? How do we go to the
Yeah,
next step?
yeah.
And so, right? So I think if you
Yeah.
can embrace that, and like you said, I think it's a balance. And that's, as a Libra myself, which is just one factor to it, but I am a Libra in the sense from astrology point of view, excuse me. And so I generally try to balance anyway. So for me, it's like being able, like you said, to acknowledge and hold space and send love, sun light and comfort energetically, yet not allow it to dim my own light or take me back down into a lower vibration, a frequency of sorrow or lack or fear that will then take over my own life or take over what my evolution is, my path, my experience. And I think if, like you said, if we can all start to just go within, ask the questions, and allow ourselves to take those steps,
Mm,
then we authentically can not only empower ourselves, but others in the process. And that's what I see that you're doing.
you're
What do
right.
you do like when you get down? What do
Yeah.
you specifically honor
Mhm.
yourself somehow? Do you allow it for a time period or?
Yeah. So I go into I try to go into my subconscious if I can't immediately know why I'm being bothered by something. And so when you're talking about the shadow sides, understanding what is lying at the very root of my issue, if I can't automatically name it, I need to go and examine what that is. And so understanding that shadow side helps as you listen. I feel like our intuition, our subconscious, aka your subconscious intuition, always is speaking. You have to listen to it. You have to train
Totally.
yourself consciously to listen to it. And so if there are issues going on in my life, if I'm feeling a certain way and I don't know why automatically, or even if I do know why, I can even go deeper as to why that's bothering me, right? Like, and so your intuition is going to speak to you, and it will speak very, quietly and subtly. And so whenever I'm feeling a certain kind of way, I do have to examine why I'm feeling that way. And also the role of emotional awareness and being able to name what I'm feeling. I've
Yeah.
lived up most of my life not knowing what I felt physically. And it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
until I came out as gay that I made the conscious effort, but then also kind of came about to be able to just realize what I was feeling at any given point, emotionally. And there's a
Yes.
power when you name something, you're able to have a bit more ownership and awareness of it.
I love what you said because it always seems to anyone that I've talked to ever since I've been interviewing people, which has been on and off since 2006, different
Mm,
podcasts, different shows and things. And what I hear from people is awareness, raising your consciousness, knowing yourself, and listening. And that's when you said it all ties it in, because when we come from the place of from the whole place and aligning and putting the pieces back together, I suppose, of the fragmentation, we can then align our energy field and connect into our intuition. And then from the awareness through the intuition, we say to ourselves, at least this is what I've been working on, is okay, am I sensing and feeling my own stuff or someone else's? Because a
mm,
lot of the times, depending on how we show up in this world, I consider myself empathic. And for a long time, I was very scared to even uh, admit that in my own way, even spiritually, because people go, I don't know what that means. And what are you talking about? And that's a crutch. But I have always been highly sensitive. And I think a lot of queer people are, because we're able to connect into the masculine and feminine energies, like you said, once we allow ourselves to, once we choose the freedom standpoint. And so for a long time, it was like, I would feel all these different things. And I kept thinking, why am I feeling all of this? I've worked so much on myself. But see,
mhm,
that's the knowing, that's the awareness. So, what I've learned from a teacher in the last few years is when you do the meditation or breathing, whether you're in nature, you're sitting, whatever you choose to do, as you connect to your chakras, which are, a gift for all of us as humans to be able to connect and tap into that. But she said, this third eye of ours,
mm,
if we start to really connect to that and know the awareness from our third eye, we start to be able to identify what we're feeling, where it's coming from, and
yeah,
how to release it quicker and show up into it where it doesn't take over our lives.
yeah.
But there's so many levels. That's the work. That's the deep work. Do you feel that there's still a large majority of the queer community, when they hear church or spirituality or anything like that, they go running the other way?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For rightful reasons,
Right,
right? For
of
those
course.
plenty of
I
reasons.
did. I did for a long
Yeah,
time. I did.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so what I think is particularly grievous about what the traditional church has done is that queer folks are inclined towards the spiritual because they mirror the complementary dualistic aspects of the divine, the masculine and the feminine. And so as a result, if you look at archetypally and potentially even historically, the witch doctors and the shamans and the magicians were embodied both of the masculine and the feminine. And as a result, they were sought after for their powers. And what we would call as queer, gay, nowadays, they didn't have that term back then, but I would venture, and a lot of writers and thinkers would echo that, is that they would be considered queer folks then. And so over the centuries, as the traditional patriarchy took power and took over, they have felt threatened by the queer, fabulous people, and so have subjugated us. And then as a result, we have lost that flame for spirituality and have associated traditional church with God and all that is. And so my vision with the work that I'm doing, and I would venture to say, hopefully you would feel that same vision, is to help queer folks reclaim their sense of spirituality that is automatically in them.
Yes.
And by being able to affirm that queer is good, queer is a gift, queer is a blessing, queer is a privilege. And so, maybe people hearing that may have some kind of an affront to those words, but it's the truth. When the more that we love our own queerness, the more that we can experience healing, and for ourselves, but then also for the world.
Can I get an amen, as RuPaul would
Amen.
say?
Yes. Oh yeah. Mama Ru. Yeah.
Right. But what you said is so magical. And I just got like chills as you were talking about where we've all come from. Because I have felt that. I have felt that especially in the last few years of my healing, my further healing, which you probably will agree that I think healing can go on the entire time we're human, right? In this particular lifetime, depending on what we believe with that. But I feel like it's not just, it's not just, okay, I'm done. No, the evolution of my soul, of my spirit, of who I as in the human form can continue to know more and expand more. And that's the awareness piece as well. But I have said this so much recently. We are the leaders. We're able to, in a way, if you look at kind of like an infinity sign, like the infinity sign, in my mind, sometimes I'll see more masculine, feminine within the infinity here. And in the middle is the circulating point of energy connecting. I see us being able to go within both and bring both in and represent it in that area. And I think that's what we can do for all people. So we're able to awaken both ends of it and bring it together. And all people can experience that. We all, like we said, come from the same place. And so I applaud you. And it's interesting because I feel like we could talk for hours about this because there's so much to be said. But I really want you to now have a platform to say anything else you'd like to say, to encourage anyone to know more about the class or anything to connect with you. And of course, I can have the information here as well. But I feel that you are an incredible leader, David. And I'm very honored to have had you on today, even for this short time. But I know that people will be led to you. And I'm excited about your group. And that's where I want people to be led to now is let's dive into this more. Let's know more. Let's break it down, like you said. And I find what you brought up very interesting and fascinating.
Thank you so much, Eugene. You're just such a light, and I'm incredibly grateful for all the things that you are and that you're offering the world.
Thank you.
To answer your question, so my group is about how queer men can rediscover rediscover means, as an aside, means that it's already there. You've just kind of forgotten about it, right? How
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
queer men can rediscover their sacred masculine. And so as a result, like, if it's anything that I want anybody listening to this to know, is it's you have the power within you, and it's all about uncovering it, and not just even masculinity, but any kind of abundance mindset and healing. We have everything that we need right now, because all is source. We're all a part of the divine. And so understanding where that how that we have the power to access whatever it is that we need, and trusting ourselves. um, and I would love for people to come across this. The group that I'm about to lead, it starts November 8th, and runs through December 13th, and we'll take a week off for Thanksgiving. But I think it's just super important, as people enter the holiday season when they're dealing with potentially triggering situations,
Right.
to have a sense of community and support behind them, and particularly within a queer space, of other queer identifying men, to have that support. And so I think that as we embody the things that are already within us, and we become more aware of that, that's when we can have a sense of joy, and things don't have to be as heavy, and we'll be empowered in that way. So I would love for anybody to connect with me. And I also run a gay men's spirituality group that's based out of the Unity Church in San Francisco. And so that's a free group, and it's a group that's kind of open, and people can come and go as they please. But my other group that I'm leading is a closed group. So I'm affirming that all the right people will feel led to it.
Of
And
course.
get
And
to
I
think.
affirm that for you. Something that I want to close with, and you helped respark this for me just by an email as we interacted to set this up, is you really profess and proclaim joy. And I have for a long time too. But lately, I think I've allowed myself to sometimes, again, dim the light a bit, distinguish the joy a bit, because I get caught up with everything that's happening at times. And so thank you, because now even when I on my email I'm saying with joy, Eugene.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's so sweet.
So
Yeah.
thank you,
Yeah.
because I've always been a joyful person at the core of who I am. We all are if we tap into it. And that's what you said. It's all here. It's available. We're our
Mhm.
own co-creators. We are our own powerful souls, energy, spirits of life, of source, of we are the gift. Something that I say to myself in the morning is, I am the answer.
I
And
love
see,
that.
for me, that is can encompass everything. I am powerful. I am loved. I am worthy. I am enough. I am light. I am artistic. I am abundant. I am whatever, and but when you say I am the answer, I acknowledge that I can tap into where I came from at any moment, clear, own it, and lead my life from grace, from joy, from light, from purpose, and realize that this is a gift, regardless of what is occurring. And like you said, the more we individually work on ourselves and open that back up, that is the ripple effect. It will change the world. And at least we can change our own individual lives and the people around us. So everyone, check David out. Thank you again, David, for being here and for encouraging us all, uplifting us all. One day I hope to meet you in person and
Yes.
work together. I'm going to put that out there right now.
I love that. Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you
Thank you,
all.
David.
Yeah.
We'll talk soon.
Bye.